All right, welcome to the Non-Stuffy Attorneys podcast. Today I'm here with Michael Strauch, and Michael is with Your Practice Mastered. Um, why don't we just start off? Tell us a little bit about that and what you're
Yeah.
doing and all that fun stuff.
Whew. Uh, Lots of places to go with this. First off, appreciate you having me on. And yeah, so what's happening over at Your Practice Mastered? For a long time, 15 years, for a little context, we're a father-son duo. So Richard James, contrary to popular belief, James is not actually his last name, it's his middle name. But as you just saw pre-show, Strauch is a bit tough to say, so that's why he went by James. We've been he started Your Practice Master about 15 years ago. And then about 6 years ago, I started the closing room, which was focusing on sales training for attorneys. Fast forward about 4 years, and I bought half of the company from him. And so over the last 2 to 3 years now, we've been what was a consulting first company for law firms has transitioned into a staffing and training company first, with a consulting program for the law firms that feel it's the right fit. And so we've been very heavily focused on creating holistic staffing solutions for law firms. And one of our biggest areas is non-attorney salespeople and intake agents for law firms. So it's been a pretty fun ride. It's an exciting year so far. And it's cool to see some of the changes that are happening in the legal industry.
Yeah, for sure. So you're getting staff that are non-attorney salespeople.
Right. So it's a lot of lawyers are still in that transition phase right now where either the owner themselves is still running consults and they're starting to run up against that capacity crunch if they're trying to grow and scale the firm. Not every firm wants to do that, which is fine. Or it's a firm that has started to scale up and maybe they've used attorneys to do initial consults for the longest time and they're looking to increase conversion rates. And so we're going out, we're actually vetting and finding non-attorney salespeople that most of them come from the high ticket sales world or the home services world, and they're looking to break into a newer industry, one that's maybe a little bit more stable than where they were previously. And we're making sure they get through a skills assessment and get the proper training they need. And that's the thing that lacked for a lot of firms, right? Is it's one thing to go out there and find someone that might be able to step in that said that they were good at sales at one point. It's another thing to find that person, vet them, and then make sure they have the right system in place to get the training they need to support them in that role.
Yeah. How are you handling the commission consideration with
Yeah.
salespeople?
Yeah. So firms tackle this in lots of different ways. So we've done this. I can't confidently say it's all 50 states now, but we've done this with a majority of states across the U.S. So first rule is we recommend to any law firm, if they are concerned with the ethical guidelines, which fully understand why, because of Rule 5.4, go to your ethics council, go to the Bar Association, and rather than asking, can I, ask, how can I?
Yeah.
How can I structure this properly? But to give a bit more direct answer, a lot of firms are doing a base salary and then are building compensation or bonus incentives that are either tied to the close rate percentages, so not to case value, or going down the flat bonus per hire route. So whether a case is $1,000 or $25,000 doesn't matter. It's the same number every single time.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. So we use non-attorney salespeople in our
Yeah.
law firm, at Cost Law Office, and yeah, we have it tied to closes that are exactly what you said, a fixed amount, no matter how much the case value is,
Sure.
and then so then they have a bonus right at the end of the month,
Yeah.
which is they can either, based on their closing percentage, they get a certain percentage of that bonus amount.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. That's a great way to structure it as well.
Yeah, we just implemented it a few months ago, and yeah, it seems good so
Yeah.
far. It's a bear
How
to track.
how's your experience with using non-attorney salespeople? It's great to hear you guys have adopted that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way to scale without doing it. You know, we're doing what about 100 consultations a month
Okay.
between the we have two non-attorney salespeople.
Yep.
Yeah, about 100 a month they're doing. I think that was the number. Yeah, so no, 100 a month each. So there's about 200 consultations a month that are
Makes sense.
happening.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, my wife's the managing attorney.
Cool.
When we first started out, I was like, you need to fucking learn sales. And she's like, I don't want to learn sales. I'm an attorney. I said,
Yep.
tough shit, right? You go work for someone else then.
Right.
So she did. She was begrudgingly patient with me teaching her sales, and she got really good at it.
Yeah,
She
that's
got
great.
really good at it. You know, when we were up, we were about 1.5 to 2 million in revenue, where you know, she was just tapped out. There was only so many hours in the day for her to do consults. It was just not possible. And yeah, we had a paralegal who started doing consults. She was really good at it. And yeah, kind of just evolved from there. And so now my wife is hardly doing any consultations.
That's great.
Yeah, she does them for select, you know, different, based off of like whatever, a bunch of different things. But yeah, man, there's just no way to scale, I don't think, without it. And we've had ads out. We hired one attorney to be a salesperson.
Yeah.
Right. She came in, she was here for a week, and she was just like, no, this isn't for me.
Common
Right?
story.
Yeah, look, sales is it's a totally different position than being an attorney. So it's difficult to get someone who went through all that schooling and everything, and it's like, nah, I just want to do sales. It's like, it's a bit of a needle in a haystack.
It is. The cool thing is, for the attorneys that are willing, because attorneys, I mean, they've gone through a lot of schooling. They're naturally very intelligent human beings. They pick it up quick, right? For the ones that are willing. But to your point, most just don't have an interest. And there's a lot of contradictory beliefs a lot too, between, you know, being an attorney and being in sales. And not that one right, wrong, or indifferent, but a lot of times they clash. The mindset clashes. And so, you know, we have historically found it is tough for attorneys to be in that sales role and really thrive in it, both from an actual results perspective, but also just from a happiness level. A lot of them just don't love doing it.
Yeah, most of them want to get into the CEO role.
Exactly.
Is what I've found. Yeah, they want to be managing the business and not in the business, so to speak.
Yeah, it's that progression path, and then some are still in the phase where they're in the like awareness phase of recognizing, oh wait, I do have a business, right? That this is a business, because that's another thing we've learned with a lot of attorneys is it's an awareness thing. They don't, sometimes it's not even a recognize or an awareness that they own a business. It's they own a law firm. It is a business. I always say, I actually just wrote a LinkedIn post on this not too long ago. I find that a lot of attorneys are reluctant entrepreneurs. They kind of stumbled into it. Not all of them really love to be an entrepreneur, but it happens to be the scenario they've found themselves in because they went out, hung their own shingle, and now they're out there trying to make it happen. And law school doesn't really teach business. Right? They don't teach you how to run a law firm and build a thriving, successful business from it.
Yeah, it almost should be a requirement, right? If you're going to be, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's the same I've experienced, right? They don't look at it. I'm not saying everybody, right?
Sure.
But
Yeah.
generally speaking, a decent amount of them don't look at it as, yeah, a business. And I think that was part of our growth, was from day one, right? I'm taking the viewpoint that this is this is a business.
Yeah.
And I need to get every aspect of the business in place. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, you can be a great attorney, but if you don't have the business acumen, there's only so far you're going to go.
It's true. And we were just recently talking to Arizona's got, the ABS. And so
Yeah.
we were just talking to a non-attorney owner that has a firm out in Arizona. And we have some clients out in Arizona. And they've done really well by all accords. They've done really well, right? Some of the clients we've got in Arizona, they've built their firms up to $5-6 million. They've done well, right? They live a good lifestyle, and they did that over the course of, call it 10 years. And then we talked to the non-attorney owner, and he gave us some insight. And within 18 months, he had his firm doing 12 million bucks. And it's just because it's a difference of mindset. Like you said, from day one, he stepped in and saw this as a business. And it just happened to be a law firm that was his business of choice. And I mean, when you look at it through that lens, you can really add some gasoline to the fire.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that was what we did from day one. So we kind of put that gas there right from the beginning. So if someone wants to hire you guys, what services are you offering? Right, you're doing the staffing and
Yeah.
consulting, but what does that kind of entail?
It's a good question. So, for the longest time, Partners Club, that's our consulting program. Partners Club was like the one path in and really the only service that we had around here. And then obviously in the last 6 years, that's transitioned a little bit. So we have firms come in at various stages. Some firms come in and they want consulting, right? And that's really all that they want. And they want the business operations, growth mindset, all of that from a consulting standpoint. And then firms that come in on the staffing front, the way we've done this to make things just more holistic for firms is, so we'll go out, we'll staff. Right now, we staff just about every role besides attorneys at the moment. And our bread and butter is appointment setters and non-attorney salespeople. We do case managers, paralegals, and like executive assistants, but our bread and butter is on the conversion side. And we make sure to wrap the ongoing training and support in with the staffing solution. So anytime someone staffs with us, especially on the intake or sales front, we make sure that it comes with continued ongoing training and support. And sometimes through that, firms will start to identify, oh, I need to do this, or oh, I should look at this. And it naturally lends itself into exploring Partners Club from a consulting perspective as they continue to put systems and people in place.
Okay.
Yeah.
What does the training entail? So someone hires you for you find an intake person or a non-attorney salesperson.
Yep.
What does that training look like?
Good question. So starts with, we got to understand the current process, right? We call it a sales design meeting. So we have to understand where we're at. How does the cow go through the pasture and eat the grass, from lead to closed deal, and then really even from closed deal to what's next step in the process. For most firms, it's an onboarding of some kind. And so we start there, and then we have weekly training. So non-attorney salespeople and appointment setters, we view the sales process as one full sales process broken into intake and then consults for non-attorney salespeople. They both basically mirror each other from a training perspective. 2 calls every week, a weekly kind of coaching and role play call where all of the non-attorney salespeople, all of the appointment setters come on, and they're hearing different versions of role play and objection handling, which is something we spend a lot of time on for the non-attorney salespeople.
Yeah.
And then a weekly open office hour session where they're able to pop in and ask questions. So as they're running up against roadblocks, if they're hitting certain objections, if they're struggling to get to the percent ranges we'd like to see them get to, they could come in, ask any questions, and then an accountability system. So on intake side, mystery shopping. So mystery shopping the firm, seeing how they're scoring out of our 11-step structure on intake. And then for consultation side, sending a consultation recording in every week and scoring it on our 19-step structure for consults. And that's kind of like the holistic training that happens every week.
Nice. That's great. So you're doing a group call with all of them.
Yeah.
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 Good. I like that.
Because a lot of firms have come in and, I want one-on-one, I want individual, which has its place in time. And that's kind of what we do through the sales design meeting, is incorporate pieces of one-on-one and consultation scoring. But we have found that group aspect is really helpful for the non-attorney salespeople or appointment setters to just either hear different questions, see different perspectives, different delivery styles. There's a lot of collaboration and power that comes from those meetings and hearing the different versions and perspectives of people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What are there particular practice areas that you're mostly focused on?
Yes. I would say like consumer side, fee-based firms, either hourly or flat fee. So our big five are family law, bankruptcy, estate planning and probate, immigration, and criminal defense. Those are kind of our big five.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. We do work with some contingency-based firms, but because we're pretty focused on the conversion side and maximizing, quote unquote, closing the deal, collecting the money, doing all of that, working on collections, a lot of contingency firms just don't run into the same type of issues. They have their own challenges that they experience on intake, but it's a different process for many of them.
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine it to be nearly as difficult of a sales cycle for them.
No, especially because there's no cash collection up front.
Right.
Yes. Which is very useful for contingency firms. We find that usually they should be able to close 95% of the consults they want into clients.
Yeah. Yeah, that's accurate. I'd say, right? The cases that they want.
Yeah, exactly. The cases they want for fee-based firms. Our benchmark and standard, and this is averaged out across all practice areas, has historically been turning 60 to 80% of our consults into clients, qualified consults into clients.
Okay, so for an estate plan, let's say estate plan or probate, right?
Yep.
What do you consider a qualified prospect?
Yeah. Our criteria are two things. First is, and these are general qualifications. So first is it like a case we can take on? Like, did they come in? It's a case we can take on, either A, in our practice area, or B, in our geographical location that we serve, right? That's qualification number one. Second qualification, and this goes for all practice areas, and this one has a lot more nuance to it. And this is where a lot of firms and a lot of salespeople get caught up, is financial qualification. Now, here's our rule of thumb for financial qualification. I'll explain kind of both sides of the coin. From a salesperson's perspective, in order for them to say someone is financially disqualified, did they go through all of the available options with that prospect from a financial component? Did they talk about, their current income? Could they do it just straight up if they got on a payment plan, if the firm offers a payment plan? Savings, family or friends, credit card, third-party financing, if your firm offers third-party financing of some kind. And did they explore all of those options? Because our rule of thumb is, if the salesperson didn't explore all of those options, it's not fully fair to say that they're financially disqualified, because we didn't necessarily walk through all of the available options with them. Now, if we did, and there's still like no way, shape, or form, it's just not there, it's not going to work, okay, that's fine. Salesperson can mark that. And then from a manager's perspective, and depending on the size of the firm, some firms have sales managers, some firms, still the law firm owner doing that. But our recommendation is, anytime a salesperson marks someone financially disqualified, that should trigger an internal task to go and listen to that call and just make sure that those are indeed disqualified, because that's a training opportunity, right? Because if for some reason a salesperson marks someone financially disqualified and they're not actually financially disqualified, well, salesperson could game the system in that to artificially increase their close rate. And they could get in the habit of, instead of marking a no buy, marking a financially disqualified, inflating that. And if we don't catch that, that could happen a lot longer and get much more severe. So we always recommend pulling at least a handful of those, so that way the salesperson knows there's some accountability there.
Yeah, we don't even mess around with it. They just all get counted in close rate.
Sure.
So what about intake's role in qualifying somebody? Is that their job?
So we have a different approach for us. We there's some general qualification depending on the practice, like family law, have to run a conflict check, right? Making sure that, you know, the opposing party isn't already represented, right? So there's some hardline qualifications that need to happen. Immigration has some qualifications that are required. But our general rule of thumb, and this is where a lot of law firms are like, whoa, I don't like that. And so I'm going to add that advisory right now, and I'll explain how to tackle and solve it too. Is everyone that comes through the door is a qualified opportunity. It's someone that's looking for the help of your firm. And our recommendation is that both intake and sales, whoever's running consults, has very, very light qualification rules. Let them do the bare minimum requirement to be able to be eligible for that person to be a client. Because what ends up happening on the sales side, from a sales psychology perspective, is when we start to train the sales team, both intake and consults, to qualify, what it ends up doing is, now when every person walks through the door, and I'm using that metaphorically, calls, Zoom, whatever it may be, they start to look at why someone is potentially disqualified. And so now it changes their psychology to, instead of looking at everyone as an opportunity to help, why is this person potentially disqualified? And it starts to really mess with a lot of salespeople. And that's where we start to see a lot of conversion rates suffer, because now they start to go in with this impression of, well, someone's going to be disqualified for something. And if they're not, I'll be excited, I'll be happy. But then that leads to the question for the law firm owner. Well, okay, so if there's light qualifications happening, what if there's cases I don't want to take? What if there's cases I can't take? And so our answer to that is onboarding. And so historically, what we recommend is intake sets the consults for, we'll call it non-attorney salesperson in this case. Maybe it's an attorney salesperson. And then the non-attorney salesperson should, this is not our term, Hormozy uses this, bam fam. Non-attorney salespeople should bam fam, book a meeting from a meeting. While they have them right there in the consult, they've already closed the deal, they've collected the payment, they've sent whatever agreement they need to send. We'll schedule them for an onboarding call. The reason that's important is because in that onboarding call, now this should give the attorney the opportunity to officially then sit down with that now client and review. And if for some reason either the client determines, hey, you know, now that I sat down with you, I just don't know that this is the right fit, or the attorney reviews and says, you know what, after reviewing the details of this case, I think you may be better off going down this path. And unfortunately, we're not going to be able to help with that. You refund the investment and you part ways. And look, I don't want to sugarcoat it. That's going to happen, right? So for the law firm owners listening, that will happen. You'll have that scenario occur, but the percent that actually happens is fairly low in the scope of things, unless from a qualification standpoint, your firm is, you know, just pretty strict on the type of clients you work with, and you'll only work with a particular set of clients. If that's the case, you might see a higher percentage of people that churn away. But if you're pretty open, and as long as they meet the general requirements, you're willing to help serve them, it happens at a pretty low rate.
Yeah, that's the exact path that we're using, right?
Awesome. Yeah.
Now, what about intake?
Mm-hmm.
Financially, I guess I'm a little confused on
Yeah.
So what we do, like for estate planning, for example,
Yeah.
is during the intakes take about 10 minutes.
Hmm.
Um, our viewpoint is that signing up for our services needs to be as easy and smooth as possible, right? There
Sure.
needs to be as
Yeah.
little friction as possible. So we don't send them any documents to fill out, right, before the consultation, right?
Excellent. Yep.
Um, and so for say estate planning, we ask, basic questions in the intake: your name, husband's name, whatever,
Hmm.
how many kids, do you already have documents set up? And then we get into asking about assets. How many homes do you own? Okay, if they own more than one home, we're instantly like, okay, this guy's financially qualified.
Sure.
Um, we ask about, how many, do you own any businesses? How many? And we ask about other assets excluding real estate,
Hmm.
approximate value, right? We just want a ballpark value.
Yeah.
The guy's like, I got $3,000 to my name. And we're like,
Hmm.
okay, probably not financially qualified.
Sure.
So we've
Yeah.
got a line in the sand, like, okay, these guys, this is where we're determining whether they're financially qualified. And if they're below that line, what we do is tell them like what our minimum fee is
Hmm.
in planning. Like, hey, our fees start at 3,500 and go up from there. Do
Yeah.
you still want a consultation? Um,
Yeah. I don't. I mean, I don't actually see anything. And let me preface with this. I think it also depends on the firm and the volume and where you're currently at in a growth cycle. Because some firms, and it sounds like with your console volume, you guys are probably at this point too, where you don't need to take every single opportunity that comes in, right? Now, whether or not you want to, of course, different conversation. But because of that, you guys have the ability to add a little bit more. And to your point, that model that you just recommended, intake, part of what we train intake agents to do is building that relationship, right? Understanding and building that relationship and rapport with the prospect, which includes some of those key questions you said, understanding, why they're there, in estate planning, maybe the type of assets that they have, where they're at, do they have anything in place, and just understanding how that dynamic works. Now, depending on the firm, depends on based on their answers, are they supposed to set everybody, or are they supposed to do a similar style to what you just mentioned, which is if they fall below this, make the recommendation with general price fixing and see if they'd still like a console, or no matter what, set everybody. And that usually varies a little bit per firm. Like family law is a prime example of one that we see firms that tend to give a general expectation with a price fixing of some kind
oh,
of.
really?
Yes. Yep. Especially if they are, if capacity is a bit more constraint on the sales side. So if they don't have a lot of inventory or capacity on the consultation front right now,
What do you
they,
mean? What do you mean by that? I don't understand.
meaning,
Capacity.
so if let's just say a family law firm, let's say the owner's still taking consults and they don't have a bunch of consultation slots available in a week just because they're wearing all of the other hats. And so that's where we'll tend to see a lot of family law firms that'll introduce price fixing of some kind on the front end. So that way we don't fill up that calendar with just a bunch of people that are genuinely not going to be qualified when
Yeah,
they meet with the owner.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Um, hmm. Yeah, we've been part of our 2026 targets is to get into family law. We do estate planning, probate,
Yeah.
Medicaid, elder law, but we definitely want to get into family law. We'd have to find an attorney.
That's always the big step. And family law attorney, I think we saw a recent stat. I want to say the unemployment rate of family law attorneys is like 1 to 2%.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's that's always the tough step for a lot of firms trying to get into family law, is finding a family law attorney to be able to do it. What motivated the interest to maybe move into family law?
Well, we have pretty lofty 10-year goals.
Yeah.
And, our goal is to get to 50 million in revenue in the next 10 years.
I love that.
And we're not going to do it just by selling estate planning and probate. We got to get into some other practice areas and just expand. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Family law is a great practice area to be able to scale fairly quickly, just because of the case values and the quick cash collection. Like a bankruptcy firm, and we work with a lot of bankruptcy firms, right? Case values in most cases are pretty low or fixed, just depending on the district, and needs a lot of volume to build a really large firm, and the cash collection cycles, because a lot of people need payment plans in bankruptcy. So they could be drawn out 3, 6, 9 months to actually get paid in full for a case. It's just, can you scale them? Yeah, we have a lot of bankruptcy firms that are doing really, really well, have passed that 10 million mark and are scaling, but it's not an easy practice area to scale. Family law on the other side, much quicker ability to scale.
Yeah. From the marketing end too, we have a lot of success with our family law attorneys. It's like almost shooting fish out of a barrel so getting leads for it isn't too difficult.
Good, bad, or indifferent, it's a practice area that will always exist, right? It's people are always going through situations internally, right? Same with criminal law. It's a practice area that's always going to be there. Whereas, and I don't know if you've experienced this at all, but we find, bankruptcy and estate planning sometimes work inverse of each other, right? As the bankruptcy market starts to increase a little bit, sometimes estate planning starts to reverse a little bit because it's an economic sign. Whereas flip side is also true. Bankruptcy starts to decrease, estate planning starts to go up. Have you found that to be the case?
I haven't paid attention to it.
Okay, cool. And that's great.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. My viewpoint is that there's always plenty of business to go around, even during a recession.
Yes.
We're in Florida. We have a lot of competitors. I don't pay any attention to any of them.
Yeah.
I don't feel like they're a barrier in any sense. I've personally met with a decent amount of competitors in our area and shared what's working for our firm and help them out. There's just plenty of fish in the sea. So
there are.
You can't. I don't take the viewpoint of, if I help the guy down the street get more business, I'm going to lose business. Not
worth it. The abundance mindset serves much better than the scarcity mindset. There's plenty of opportunity for everyone out there.
Yeah, for sure. So you took over, or you bought in half the practice 4 years ago, you said?
It's been 3 years now.
3 years. Okay.
Yep. It's been 3 years.
What were you doing before that?
So prior to that, I started the closing room, which was kind of a version of what got absorbed. So the closing room focused on sales training, no staffing, just sales training for non-attorney salespeople in law firms. And I started that by actually going. So when I graduated college, I've been lucky. My dad is a great mentor. I've been watching and had that model of entrepreneurship in my life from the beginning, which was always really valuable to me. And so as I graduated college, I had told him, I said, hey, is there anything you want to do together? Because he was at the point where, candidly, life was pretty good. He was able to spend 3 days on the golf course and still run a great consulting business and have really happy clients, which was awesome. But I asked him if he wanted to do something together, and he said he'd like to do that. And I told him, I said, sales is something I've always loved. Even prior to college, I had built a lot of sales experience. And I said, I want to do sales training. And so we sat down and we were talking through it and trying to figure out, okay, what niche, right? What niche makes sense? And he said, well, all the lawyers and Partners Club, they could really use some help with this. Okay, I'll bite. let's give it a shot. So the way we did it is I actually one of the clients in Partners Club volunteered, and I went and played as a non-attorney salesperson in their firm. So I went and actually took a role as a non-attorney salesperson. I said, look, guys, I'm going to do this for free. Don't pay me. I just want a success story out of this, right? I just want to build a success story out of this. And so it was a bankruptcy firm. They were out in Maryland. And I came in, they were doing about a 45% close rate, and they didn't have a ton of structure from a sales perspective. And I built the 19-step sales script, just between a combination of my sales experience, some of Rich's experience, and I stepped in and I said, give me a 90-day run window and let's see where we go. And when I got in there, I started taking consults for them. I was mainly remote at the time, so Zoom and phone consults. And within 90 days, I took them from a 45% close rate to an 85% close rate. And I was like, it works. This works. And so I asked for, the testimonial and the success story, and then basically took that and opened a beta program for law firms and said, let's get 5 and let me replicate what I did internally and try to train your staff how to do that. And that was the launch point. I did that, launched it, and had very similar success. That still to this day, the average close rate for a lot of the firms that initially start speaking to us is about 33.7%. That's the average close rate. And the average close rate after working with the program is somewhere between 60 and 80%, depending on the practice area. And so compounded, built that up. And then Rich and I had the conversation. It got to the point where it was like, I was trying to scale the closing room, and we were effectively going for the same market, right? He was trying to obviously generate Partners Club clients. I was trying to generate sales training clients. And although the two aren't necessarily one and the same from a service offering, typically a client would decide to start with one versus the other, right? They'd either decide to start consulting and maybe scale into sales training, which was the more typical path, or start with sales training, and Partners Club may or may not be a fit. So we looked at each other and just said, hey, maybe it makes sense to bring this together and let me wrap the equity in some upfront cash and buy half the business, and let's add the closing room as a service offering within Partners Club, and let's scale up your practice master. The rest has continued to scale from that point.
Nice. How many employees you got working with you?
We've got 18 on the team right now.
That's great.
Yeah. We got an awesome team. Everyone's remote. We're a remote company. Back in the day, Rich had an office actually out here in Phoenix. And that was excellent. Once COVID hit, everyone went remote. And so, we've got a really cool team. It's cool to be able to make everything click from a remote perspective. It's not always easy. I'm not sure. Are you guys in office, or do you have a remote team?
Almost everyone's in office.
Okay. Yeah. And there's a lot of benefit to in office for sure.
Yeah.
Remote's not always easy, but when you dial in the system, and everyone enjoys the flexibility of the remote role, it does work, but it takes a little nuance.
Yeah, for sure. So what are you seeing for the guys who are closing at a 30% rate and then getting them up to 60 to 80%? What are you seeing is kind of the differentiating factor?
Step one, having the right script and structure. I know that sounds so antiquated. Everyone's like, oh, you need a sales script. But genuinely, having the right script and structure in place is like foundation level 1. right? That's the starting point. A lot of the firms we meet with that are at 33.7%, whether they have a non-attorney salesperson or it's an attorney still in consults, they don't have any script or structure. So that's like the starting point is putting that in place. Once that's in place, now it's making sure whoever's in that seat is actually willing and able to follow the script and structure. And that's like phase 2 is, okay, we put a script and structure in place, but do we have the right who in the seat that's willing and able to follow the script and the structure? Assuming the answer to that is yes, the next big point where a lot of ground is made up is the ability to overcome objections. As part of the script and structure, it's one of the steps in it, but how strong is that person in the seat at overcoming objections? A lot of times we find that can make or break the difference of like a 30 to 40% swing in close rate. If objection handling is not a strong suit of the individual in that chair, it's going to really hinder their ability to get upwards of that 60 to 80% range we look at. Could they maintain, get to maybe 40, maybe 50%? Sure, maybe. But if objection handling isn't there, it's going to be a struggle point to move that needle. So that's like the second layer. And then you start to get a little bit more nuanced, right? So after that point, now it's, how is the energy of the person in that chair? Are they excited to be there? Do they exude confidence that is displayed to your prospect so the prospect feels confident in you? Do they feel like they're happy in their role, or does the prospect feel like they're meeting with someone that feels like they're just trudging along and they're not really happy to run this consultation? They're just doing it because they have to do it, right? That's going to affect close rate. And then the fourth layer is just mindset, the mindset of the who in that seat. Are they positive? Like, genuinely, do they have a positive mindset? And do they look at every new consultation as hey, this is someone that we have the opportunity to help and serve. And so by me closing the deal, I know we use closing the deal, and sometimes that could sound a little like, it sounds like a mill. That's not what I mean by that. But by closing the deal, it's like this person is getting the help that they need to either solve the current pain point that they're experiencing or maybe try to prevent a future one, more popular in estate planning, right? And having that proper mindset and not a negative one. Those are kind of the 4 key things we find once you get someone in and you lay the script and structure down as the foundation. What are their names?
Dash and now. So they just let them in, and now they're fighting.
You're good.
My wife letting the damn dogs in to come in and
nice to meet you. No, you're good. I have 2 Frenchies, and they love they play tug of war, and sometimes it's so funny. One of them just got his 2 front teeth. He had to get them extracted. So him trying to play tug of war is kind of interesting.
That's funny. Is there like what do you do with somebody who, I guess, isn't the best at objection handling or has reservations on handling objections?
Yeah. Step 1 is training, right? Like let's make sure they have the right training in place first, because we always want to give someone the benefit of the doubt and the opportunity to learn in advance, because it's not fair to just say, hey, you can't do it, so you're not cut out for this, right? Well, what training did we give them to make sure they have a path to do it? And so it starts with training, and also starts with just a conversation. Like, are they willing? So when we recruit salespeople, one of the biggest barriers we initially look for is, have they collected a card over the phone or in person before? Are they used to actually collecting a payment? Because
not all salespeople are.
No, not all salespeople are. Some come from like the tech worlds where it's like sending a contract or account executive. Some come from setting, and they come from the setting side, and they're not actually used to collecting a payment. But there is a psychological barrier there for people. And so they have to either come from that background and they're comfortable with it, or if they don't, they've got to be comfortable with it. Otherwise, if that's constantly something they're uncomfortable with, they're probably not going to do super great in the role, and they're never going to feel too great in the role, because it's not something they're confident in.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I could definitely agree with that. So if a law firm wants you guys to find a non-attorney salesperson for them,
Yeah.
are they almost always remote, or are you finding people locally, or what's that kind of look like?
Yeah, right now we do all remote non-attorney salespeople, which historically has not been an issue. And even for firms that run heavy in-person consults, some firms hear me say this and they're like, "There's no way this works." And I promise you, we've got a multi eight-figure immigration firm that does this exact method, where they run a hybrid in-person remote experience. And I know this sounds a little wonky, but you still curate the client experience. They still come into the office, they're still greeted, they still go through the whole experience, but then they're introduced in the conference room, and you've got a non-attorney closer that's built here in a virtual environment, and you have the whole setup, you have the mic, you have everything, and you introduce them to the non-attorney salesperson that'll be running the consultation, and the non-attorney salesperson can do it virtually. Take some mindset adjustment, take some nuance of getting used to if a firm is in that position. But generally speaking, to come back to your question,
Yeah.
yes, we're hiring them remote currently.
Got it. These damn dogs are in our sales area and just fucking going nuts, wrestling with each other. Oh, maybe they're done now.
Hey, but maybe it's helping the deals close a little bit because people are seeing dogs, and there's something about dogs and babies that people love.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we're looking for more non-attorney salespeople. We do want someone in office just because that's
Sure.
how our whole law firm is.
Yeah.
It's been a bear to find one. Yeah. But we're looking. We're looking. Now let me ask you this. So for closing rate,
Yeah.
are you putting a time limiter on it? Or is it like, okay, someone has a consultation 6 months ago and then they close today? Does that count on their close rate? How are you kind of calculating it?
Yeah. That's a good question. So here's how we traditionally handle that. Now, I'm going to say this, and a lot of times people are like, well, okay, I get it. So using the right script and structure. And I know I come back to that, and I'm not trying to say the 19 steps is the gospel. It's the only way to do it. It's not. There's other ways to close deals, right? But we find that the majority of the consults that we close happen during the initial consult. So the majority happen there. Now, for the percentage that don't, what we historically recommend for reporting purposes, and every firm does this a little bit differently, is if they don't hire during the initial consult, it's marked a no-buy on the day of the initial consult. And then if they have a follow-up with you in the future, then it's marked as a hire that day, but not counted as an additional show. So it's not a new consult again, it's a follow-up. And so in some cases, someone could, in theory, have like a bonus hire rate in a given week if they happen to close 100%, plus they had 3 follow-ups, and those 3 follow-ups weren't counted as additional shows. So it shows as whatever, 125% hire rate that week because they got the additional. That way you're able to track accurately the close rate week to week, and understanding that you're going to have a bracket of follow-ups. The other way some firms track it is they'll track like almost a separate line item for follow-up show, follow-up hire. And they'll track kind of the close rate of those follow-ups in addition to initial consults.
Yeah. Yeah, we our average deal cycle from create to one closed one is 21 days.
Okay.
But the vast majority close same call or within a few days. That's the vast majority. Now, we have very extensive follow-up. So we're going like, we routinely have people signing up 8, 10, 12 months from consult.
I love that.
Yeah. They just go onto the follow-up list, and then our salespeople come in. It's, okay, I got to call these people today. It's just all automated. We run ours where the close rate, if someone has a consult, say in March,
Yeah.
right, any period in March, the consultant has until the 15th of April to
Yep.
close to retain them for it to be counted in their monthly closing percentage.
Yeah. Okay. That's certainly a model that works. And so you kind of built that based off of average time to close deal. Is that how you built it?
Roughly, I mean, it's arbitrary, but
Yeah.
um, yeah. So if someone has a consult on the 1st of March, okay, they now have like 45 days to close them.
Right.
If they do a consult on the 31st of March, okay, now they have 15 days to close them.
How do you find that? Does it at all create any confusion, like from a reporting perspective of, so is it marked a no buy at time of consult, or is it just open ended?
Just open.
Okay. Got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. We use Zoho. You familiar with the Zoho
Yeah.
platform?
Mhm.
Yeah. So we've got it all coded in there. So it just, we have analytic dashboards. And so, yeah, if the consultation happened on this date, then yeah. So it's all our developers created it all.
Yeah, which is really nice. And Zoho is great for development because there's a lot of open-ended and APIs that allows little bit more custom development than some other platforms.
Yeah. What do you recommend for CRMs especially for sales purposes?
Well, there's so our team, and a lot of people would say this is entirely antiquated. And the answer to this question, I'm sorry to this company, it is antiquated, but we've been using it for 15 years, and the pain of disconnect is so strong. Is Infusionsoft. That's what we've been.
Infusionsoft?
Infusionsoft, now known as Keep.
Okay.
Yes. And so, yeah, Infusionsoft was the original name. And and don't get me wrong, it's a fine platform. Like, our team's able to use it. We manage off of it. But we've certainly had those conversations. Just 15 years worth of data. That is, yeah, that the pain of disconnect is real. That said, a lot of the firms that we work with use a lot of the legal CRMs, and they all kind of manage, whether it's Lawmatics, Clio, my case, Practice Panther. Those are the big ones that we see a lot of firms use. The biggest thing that I always mention from a sales perspective is I don't entirely care, what CRM you decide to use, but you need to make sure your salespeople are equipped with the ability to actually, run a payment while on a consult. Like, do they have access to the payment processor with the right permissions, of course, to insert the details, to set up a payment? And if you're a firm that offers payment plans, create a payment plan so that way they have that tool. So you'd be amazed at the number of firms that we meet with, and maybe you guys do this. Don't take any offense. That will just kind of end the consult by saying, yeah, we'll send you over some details. We'll send you a payment link if it's something you want to do. Yeah.
I'll kill somebody if they say that.
Right. Exactly. Right. And it's like, whoa, there's no quicker way to tank a close rate than that, because people don't we're asking them to part with money. Most people aren't going to want to just, oh yeah, let me get to that payment link. I'm jumping for joy to do that. Right.
Dude, my guys are trained that as soon as they deliver the price, the instant that they say the price, they then immediately tell them how they can pay. Well, it's $6,500 for your estate plan. I can take a check or a card to get you started right now. And then they shut the fuck up.
Yep. Yeah. There you go. And that the last part is really important. Being okay with silence, right? Being okay with silence, letting the salespeople sit in silence. And we actually did this on one of our trainings before, where I got on the call. I said a few words and I went silent for like a minute just to see what would happen. And people started getting itchy. I started seeing chats. Is the connection gone? What happened here? And then I was like, this was a lesson in silence, right? Be okay with sitting in the silence, because I know some of these terms are antiquated, but the first person that talks loses, quote unquote, right? So let the prospect answer the question, right? Ask the closing question, let them answer the question, and then be able to move things forward. But yeah, when we just try to default to, yeah, the investment's this, we'll get you a link sent over, we'll send an agreement out, you can take care of it, take the time you need. You're not going to get very far doing that.
Oh my God, I'd flip out.
And from a sales trainer's perspective, when we meet those firms, we obviously want to walk alongside them, but there's a lot, like truly, there's a lot of psychological training that's needed to get some firms to be okay with that. And I get it. Like, for the law firms listening, you don't want to be pushy, but there's a difference between being pushy and understanding there's a world in which you can ask for the order without being pushy. There's a world in which you can overcome objections without being pushy. It's just about the way you deliver it, using questions to overcome objections, coming from a place of curiosity, not trying to shove it down their throat and like close. That's the byproduct of what happens as a result of doing it the right way. But if you don't do it that way, it's hard to ever get your conversion rate where you want. And now you're lighting marketing dollars on fire. That's not fun either.
Yeah. It's funny. I think probably a lot of the stuff that we consider basic is not so basic for a lot of these people.
Yeah. And I can't blame them. Yeah. I can't blame, because just a lot of them never learned it, or from a sales perspective, just never had a desire to learn it. And I get it, so some of it is, it's not even a rewiring in some cases. It's like a brand new discovery for many.
Right. Yeah. I mean, look, I don't know, man. I tell a lot of guys that it's like baking a cake, right? If you have a process, you follow a recipe, and you get an end result. And sales is not some mystery. Only certain people have the capability to do it, right? No. It's like these mini steps that need to be mastered, and you master all of them. It's like, okay, can you put a quarter cup of sugar in the bowl, and then put half a cup of milk in it, and then whisk it together?
Right.
Okay, great. You just did step one. Right?
Yep.
Right. Turn the fucking oven on. Okay, can you do that? Can you do that?
Exactly. It's not it's not some sorcery. In fact, so much so that what I tell a lot of the salespeople we train is, look, you guys aren't going to love to hear this, but your role should be boring. And let me explain why it should be boring. Not boring from different stories you're going to hear, the different conversations you're going to have, but you're following the same structure every single time. And so sales should feel boring. And when it feels boring, that's usually when you're closing at the highest, because you've got things down to a recipe. You know exactly what you're doing. You know exactly what you need to say. You know the steps you need to follow. And it's going to feel repetitive. And that's because it's supposed to. And some people don't love that. And honestly, that's why I find a lot of attorneys struggle with it too, especially with script and structure. It's because it doesn't allow that creative flair, right? Doesn't allow us to problem solve, doesn't allow us to go down the legal advice path and start to craft a solution to the problem. And it can feel boring. And on top of that, you add in the little pinch of sales psychology and just understanding sales nuance. And so a lot of attorneys tend to struggle with that. So I understand, like, I fully understand why, the why behind the struggle for many. But yeah, when sales is done right, it should be boring. It shouldn't be some extravagant creative consultation every single time we're trying to craft custom solutions. Follow the script and structure, overcome objections, and you're going to close somewhere between 60 to 80%. We're not trying to go for 100. We're trying to go for 60 to 80 week after week after week.
Yeah. What's your viewpoint on how much legal knowledge a non-attorney salesperson needs to know?
I actually just got asked this in an open office hour yesterday. Just enough to be able to know the general qualification and to know what they need to sell. Because obviously we never want a non-attorney salesperson to, and this isn't to try to like stop their knowledge, right? But we don't want them to know too much to the point where they start to potentially toe that line of legal advice, right? We don't even want to put that gray area there. So just equipping them with just enough to know, are they qualified? And what am I supposed to sell based on this? And that tends to be just enough to be able to do what they need to do. So that way they can focus on the emotional aspect of the consultation, because that's really what it is. The consultation is an emotional conversation. Prospects make emotional buying decisions and they justify with logic. And so the logic will be step 2, onboarding. That's where the legal strategy will be crafted. That's where we're going to go through the nuance and what to expect in the case. But that's not the purpose of the initial consult, because when that happens in the initial consult, it creates overwhelm, it creates confusion. And one thing is for certain, there's no quicker way to kill a deal than confusion. Confusion leads to indecision. Overwhelm leads to indecision. And so when you go in and understand that, now when you recognize it's an emotional conversation, you're able to keep things a bit more streamlined.
Yeah, that makes sense. Nice, man. How you guys getting most of your business?
Well, that's transitioned a little bit too in the last several years. For a very long time, it was Facebook. We ran a lot of Facebook advertising. Rich back in the day had several books that he wrote, and he'd be at some of the conferences in the legal space. Those were all great tools. And then about, I'd say, kind of start of 2025, when we saw a decline in Facebook results. And at first we couldn't quite identify why. But I think lots of things happened, right? I think the legal market started to shift a little bit. There has been more coaches and consultants that have come into the legal space in the last 5-6 years than ever before. And then also just with the rise of AI, truly, consulting offers specifically are they're okay. And for the right firms that want the implementation side of it, they're perfect. And so we started to transition a little bit. So anyway, I use all of that to say our primary forms of growth right now are organic through content, and then referral and strategic partnerships. Those are our 2 big levers currently.
Yeah. You have affiliate relationships with people?
We do. Yes. Yep. We've as you can imagine, marketing agencies tend to be at the top of that list because they get blamed when conversion isn't very good.
Yeah.
I'm sure you probably experienced that.
We know. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. We know for sure. Yeah, man, maybe we could set up a relationship or something.
Yeah, I would love to. That is one of our primary levers to pull in 2026. So would be happy to have that conversation.
Yeah. Did you have, so are you doing any Facebook marketing right now?
We actually threw ads back on for about a 2-week window just to test things again with a different offer. Actually just 2 weeks ago, and a little bit better than it was in 2025, but still nowhere near what it was when we were kind of in the heyday of Facebook ads. So I think there's a.
Are you doing it internally, or you have a company doing it for you?
We have it internally. So we built an internal marketing team. We use an agency for a very long time. And then as we were growing and scaling, it just got to the pace where an agency only has so many hours available to them. And so it just, the pacing, we couldn't align with one another. They were doing a great job. It's just, we were trying to move too quick, trying to do too much. And it just wasn't a pace that they could keep up with, nor did we want them to feel responsible. And for what they would probably have to charge us to keep up at that pace, it just didn't make a ton of sense.
Yeah. Yeah. We, most of our attorney clients who we're getting leads for, most of them are on Google search.
Yep.
Right? So that's where the hottest leads for them are coming in. For our marketing to get attorneys, our best platform, I still want to figure out what the hell's going on with Google, because we've run a couple campaigns and haven't done particularly well at it. but most of our leads for attorneys come through Meta.
Interesting. So you guys are on the Meta side right now.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's there's a ton of marketing companies out there
Yeah.
for attorneys. But the thing with it is that your creatives need to change so much,
Yes.
right? That's the biggest hurdle.
Yes.
And yeah, it's a shit show. And they changed rules without telling you, and then you got
Oh
to
yeah.
figure it out.
Yeah. It is it's a bit of a cluster over there sometimes. Because yeah, and with the Andromeda updates, like you said, creative changes have to happen so quickly and at a high volume, which presents its own set of challenges because you need to be constantly working on ads. Like that's a function within the marketing team is ads.
100%, 100%.
Yep. And that was another reason. Like it sounded a little bit of, or sounded a few alarms for us because when we did start to see Facebook or Meta, I'm still using the two interchangeably, wane a little bit for us. We were like, well, we become a little reliant on Meta for this. And so if they make changes and we start to see slippage, we need to have other lead sources to be able to help sustain. And so that started part of our conversation and transition, which is why we put a real heavy focus on organic and a real heavy focus, I'd say more at the start of this year on starting to build those strategic partnerships, especially now that we've got the staffing side built in, because that's really where we're building a lot of the strategic partnerships around.
Yeah, man. Why don't we set up a call? Why don't after this we figure out a call, and you and I and my partner Ryan, we can discuss. And
For
I
sure.
like it, dude. I like everything you're doing. We do
I
it.
appreciate it.
Yeah, we do. I've created a couple sales courses, right,
Yeah.
for our clients, right? It's just on demand, me just talking, right?
Yeah.
Wrote a book on sales, which should be published in the next week or so.
Awesome. Congrats.
Yeah. But as far as like getting granular and everything like that, like you guys are doing, that's not what we're doing. That's a whole other business. That's what you guys are doing.
Yeah, it is. It's nuance. And a lot of agencies in the space have, as you've probably seen, a lot of them have either recognized, yeah, we don't want to do that, but we know we need it, which is why we've started building a lot of strategic partners in that, or no, we need to do this and trying to create their own internal kind of conversion universe to be able to help their firms because it's frustrating. You guys do a great job. You generate a bunch of leads. The firms don't convert them. They end up saying the leads suck. They blame you. And then it's like, well, you want to be careful, but at the same time, you want to say, well, actually, it's a conversion issue. It's not really the leads. And so it is a problem. So that's where we've noticed a lot of agencies are starting to oscillate between.
Yeah, man. Marketing can have can be a little rough for them sometimes. It's like we'll get emails sometimes for clients. These fucking ads aren't working, right?
Yeah.
So then we go into the leads dashboard,
Uh-huh.
right? We see, okay, they had 15 calls yesterday. 12 of them weren't answered. It's like,
Oh man. Yeah.
shit like that.
It's incredibly frustrating and it is a real issue. And I think just with all the different choice now available in the marketplace to law firms, they maybe think it's an agency issue when, again, most of the time, I'm not saying every now and again it's not. Sometimes there's an actual marketing issue, but most times I have found it's a conversion issue within the law firm.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're seeing that too. Now, we want to take full responsibility, so that's why,
of course,
we're inside campaigns every week, and we're adjusting keywords, and we're constantly keeping stats on what's the cost per lead and all that shit, right? So what's our responsibility, and are our metrics going up for the client? If someone starts out the campaign at $100 per lead, all right, is it going up? Is it going down?
Right.
So yeah, we definitely have to look at what our responsibility is, and our team's pretty adept at like when we get a complaint from a client, it's like, okay, what did we do? Right. We know that there's most likely a conversion issue,
Sure.
right? But what's our responsibility here? What do we need to
Absolutely.
do to fix it? Yeah, so we've kind of ingrained that in the culture here, which is
It's good. That
yeah,
that ownership and that responsibility is good, because at the end of the day, that is what it comes back to. And it's not even worth playing the blame game. That doesn't serve anybody.
it could be very easy in the marketing industry, right? Because every
Yeah,
marketing agency knows that the client has conversion issues,
correct.
right?
Yep.
They because they do. They do
Yeah.
almost. I mean, I don't know how many percentage of businesses that I could go into and be like, all right, fix this, do this, do this, do this, increase your close percentage. But I bet you it's a large percentage.
Yeah. For many agencies, it is.
Right,
Yep.
right.
It is.
Yeah,
It's a very interesting time and a very interesting space, and I feel like there is more awareness around it now more than ever. Specifically in the legal industry, is I feel like there's starting to become more awareness, and I even feel like just the growth and the expansion of coaches, consultants, agencies, trainers, all of that in the legal space has increased awareness substantially as well for law firms, which is great. And so although sure, there's more competition in the marketplace, it's also a really good thing, because there's also more awareness than ever before for these different aspects for law firms, which is cool to
yeah,
see.
yeah, for sure. What's your viewpoint on AI for intake?
Yeah. We're actually having these conversations internally right now. What's her viewpoint on it? How doomsday do I want to be? I think AI voice for intake, not for non-attorney sales and consults, but for intake. Um, and look, we're fully aware we run a staffing company, and part of it is intake, but we're also aware of reality. And so I would say within the next 18 months, AI voice is going to start to take over intake. Now, the pace at which law firms want to fully adopt it is another question, but the capability of it being there, absolutely. Like,
Yeah,
it's arguably there right now. Like, we have a lot of firms in beta and testing it, and it's there.
it's just a little too glitchy for me right now. We
Depending
were
on the
just
system you use, for sure, it can be a little glitchy, or it can. One of the issues I've seen is you throw it off with a weird question, it could loop, and that obviously needs to be addressed. So it's not perfect, but we have several firms right now that use it for rollover or after hours.
yeah, we have an AI receptionist. We use Ring Central's AI
Yeah.
receptionist
Mhm.
just to route calls
Sure.
to right whether they route it to sales or production or individual people.
Mhm.
Um, Generally speaking, that's been good, right? But
Yep.
it literally says right off the bat, hey, I'm an AI agent. I want to get you to a live person right away. Tell me how I
Sure.
can help, right?
Yep.
Where do you need to go? And so by telling them it's an AI agent right off the bat, it's a little bit like, all right, I'm not going to be talking to you for the next 20 minutes,
Yeah.
you know. But it's funny. I texted my business partner last night. Um, I'm listening to. I'm reading the book, listening to the book 0 to 1. Have you heard of
Mhm.
it?
Yeah.
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 So it's got my wheels turning on some stuff. So I texted him last night. I said it was like 10:30 or something. I said, "Hey, when do you think AI is going to be perfect voice AI?"
Mhm.
Like, God, I have no idea. I said, "Okay, well, we need to get ready for it because it's coming."
It is.
And yeah,
It is.
you
And
think 18 months, huh?
I think 18 months. And that's a combination from seeing it firsthand. And look, you know, of anybody, we could be heavy on the scrutiny of it because, out of protection to transition things properly. But truly, I think having the conversations with just the different AI development firms that we've met with, I see kind of that 18-month window, maybe 24, but I'd say 18 months with the exponential pace at which it's moving. It's definitely going to have the capability to be there. But to your point, like one of the big things you had just mentioned is even your AI receptionist, it'll say that it's an AI. So we have one of our clients, and he's public about some of this stuff, but he uses he calls it AI Maria. That's that's his AI voice agent, and he's like, look, it works. It does a very good job. It sets, and I will be the first to tell you, I was skeptical of, okay, it works, but how does it set and how well do those prospects show up, right? I've been proved a little bit wrong because it's maintaining 75% set rates. It's maintaining 75 to 80% show rates. And I'm like, wow, okay. But it's all about training the client. So he has a conversation with all of his clients because he also uses this for just like internal calls that need to be, taking a message for, routed to a specific person, kind of like an AI receptionist. And when you position it as a win for a client to be able to move at a quicker pace, be able to get your questions answered faster, it helps from their perspective because we're still in a phase where people in society have become much more okay with speaking to AI just because it's a reality, but it's still at a place where you still kind of want to speak to a live person.
Yeah.
So if you're able to train your clients on how it's a win for them, that usually changes their perspective. But yeah, I'm thinking 18 months. I could be wrong. We could look back 18 months and it's not there. But that's kind of where my gut's at.
I think it's sooner.
It might be. It might be.
Yeah. Now, you don't think that um, they could ever be non-attorney sales reps?
I think there's too much emotional disconnect. Like asking for money. I never want to say never
Yeah.
because like the pace at which it's moving is like, wow, okay. So and if society just starts to change and become much more okay with it and it becomes normalized, well, then I definitely can't say never.
Well, so look, my viewpoint on AI is that we are very much in the infancy stage
Yes.
still,
Yes.
and the capabilities of it are far in excess of what we even imagine right now.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
So back in 1990, right, the fucking iPhone
Yeah.
it was like demon, right? It was never
Oh,
on,
what didn't register? Yeah. Yeah.
right. And now this is even more.
Mhm.
So I guess my viewpoint is that an AI agent will be good enough to where the prospect doesn't even know it's talking to an AI agent.
It might. It like it might. I think as I kind of I should say as we've mapped out where this could ultimately go. And some firms could look at this as doomsday or um look, it's obviously not all about profitability. Of course, you want to be able to give back to the team and you want to be able to rise people up. But it we're about to move into what could be considered the golden era from a margin standpoint for law firms. And whether or not a firm wants to go down that path, separate conversation. But I think it could ultimately get to where there are three roles in a law firm: an attorney, a salesperson, and an AI implementer. And AI would manage just about every other function in a law firm. That's where I think it could, like, this could ultimately pan out to going.
Yeah,
I'm not sure, but
that's it's very very possible, and in my estimation, more likely than not.
yeah, yeah.
And
And
whether that's in 2 years or 10
right.
years,
Yep.
more than likely than not. It's funny. We moved here from California to Florida.
Hmm.
I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get into to the tech industry,
Yeah.
right? I was doing real estate out in California and moved here to Florida. The home prices were a quarter of what they were in California, so commissions were a quarter. I said, "Fuck this! This is terrible." I said,
Yeah.
I'm gonna shift careers. I'm gonna get into the tech industry. I'm gonna become, a manager, right? I'm gonna know coding and all that fun stuff, and be a manager, right? Managers in the tech industry aren't they're very coveted because most of these coding guys are kind of like introverted and all that, right? So I started down that path and then stopped it to open the firm with my wife. And my
Yeah.
God, I am so glad I did, because I mean, coders are like almost obsolete now.
Yeah. Yeah. And it happened so quickly. It happened so quickly. And that is one of those roles that, unfortunately, I mean, it could just come in and take over, right? Um, yeah, it sounds like you made a pretty good jump. What motivated you to start the firm? How did that transition happen?
Well, my wife she was an in-house counsel in California for many years doing business law.
Hmm.
And we decided to move here, and she was going to find an in-house counsel job. So we moved here July 2019.
Hmm.
Get here, she starts applying to places. She's getting interviews. Salary is like 70 to 80 grand a year.
Yeah.
She had come from making, 300.
Yeah.
And she was just like, this is not workable. So a friend was just like, hey, why don't you just open up your own practice? She was like, geez, I never thought about it. So that was the basics of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And the rest is history. How did you land on estate planning?
Yeah. So we started doing transactional business work when we first started. And then we had more and more clients asking us about estate planning. And we, it's easy work. Clients are less needy than business law, right? And we found a paralegal who was very, very experienced in estate planning. Excellent. So we hired her on. We were still working out of the house at the time. So it's like, I'm in the dining room with my computer set up. My wife's one of the bedrooms is an office. Our paralegal's in another office.
I love it. Yeah.
We've got, the living room. We have consultations being done in the living room. Our dogs are fucking jumping in the pool behind it.
The scrappy startup. It's great.
That it was fun. And then I started getting worried about either another pandemic or a recession. Mm-hmm. So we transitioned into we started doing probate.
Okay.
Yeah, because probate's just it's recession proof.
It is. Yep.
People are always going to die.
Yes, they are, and there's always going to be issues around it.
Right. So we got into that, and it's now about 70% of our business is probate.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah. That's that is one of those complementary practice areas to estate planning. That tends to be, for many firms, a pretty big lever to pull. One of the firms that is in our program, they're out in California, and they do exclusively probate litigation work, and they've built a very strong and large law firm. So as a standalone practice area, probate lends itself to a solid practice area.
Yeah, we're getting into probate litigation now. It's a whole nother beast, but we've been turning away so many of them for the last few years that it's like, what the hell are we doing? Let's get into it. It's a lot.
It is.
Litigation. Yeah. But any attorney who is doing estate planning but isn't doing probate, they're really missing out. Especially when you're marketing, especially if you're marketing estate planning, because you're going to get leads that are probate leads. Like, these prospects think they need an estate planning attorney.
Yep.
when they need probate, right? They're literally searching estate planning when they need probate. So
Yeah.
yeah, man, especially when you charge a percentage of the estate value, you get an estate that's a couple $1,000,000 and you're charging a percentage. Next thing you know, your payday's 70, 80 grand.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Case value can be serious case value on probate cases.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's a very strong practice area alongside estate planning. I agree with you. It's a very nice supplement. In some cases, sounds like can become even the primary from a revenue generation perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Cool, Michael. Well, hey, man, I love what you're doing. I love your viewpoint on sales and intake, and I love all of it. Keep it up.
Thanks.
And
I appreciate it, man. It's fun. It's a journey. It's a journey, and there's a lot of exciting, paths and challenges along the journey. AI is one of these fun ones to conquer right now. But likewise to you guys. Pretty cool what you're doing over there.
thanks, dude. Yeah, let's definitely connect. Shoot you over an email, and we'll get on a call.
Sounds like a plan. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on. This was fun.
Great. All right.